Welcome back to another toy review here on my channel. Today we're going to be reviewing Wave 2 of the SHODO vs. Kamen Rider figures. Yes, I'm very excited for this. And here we have figures 6 through 9. So yes, in this wave we get 5 different figures, and I was very excited for this one because this is my favorite suit design for all the Kamen Riders from the very first season out of the 5 different suit designs from the original series. Alright, so let's get started. The first one in this wave is Kamen Rider 1. If you remember, we got Kamen Rider 1 in the last wave, but this time it's the Sakurajima version. The one from the previous wave only lasted 13 episodes. And he was replaced as the lead actor for a time by this one. We'll get into that when we get to him. And so, when he came back to the show, this was the version of the costume he had. I'll even do some comparisons so you can see the difference. Alright, without further ado, let's bring in Kamen Rider 1. Yes. You can see his green is much more vibrant than that aquamarine type green we saw in the other version. So, yes. Let's see if I can get... There we go. So, he has... Alright. So, this time he has these bright red eyes. Still has that jewel in the middle of his helmet. And he has a darker, more foresty green for his mouth plate, his chest armor. The belt's still the same with the red turbine in the middle, the silver and the white. Yes, he's very nice. He has some different variations on the hands the first version came with. Let's see if I can get this focused. Yes, that's just one of the different variants he has. Yeah, very nice. Except for some minor details I may or may not have noticed, he's pretty much the same as the other version, except for the coloration. Yeah, back's still the same, the details are still there even though it's not picked out in pink. The hole in the back for using those model stands, and that's about it. And even the black bodysuit is a darker black. The other black was still darker, but felt like it had just a mix of a different color into it. But this is undeniably black, definitely. The helmet has a bit of a dark green to it. Yes, yeah, a bit of a dark green to it. Definitely not the black that's the rest of the costume, but it's definitely pretty good. He does come with the stand hand holder thing. He definitely has all the hands included. He even has this... this weapon holding hand, which he uses with him. We'll get into that when we get into him in the review, so... Yes, this is pretty nice. Now that we've looked at him, let's compare him to the original version. Yeah, most people would probably, if they went from this version and didn't see this version for 13 episodes and went to this version, they probably wouldn't be able to tell the difference, but having them side to side, you can definitely see the difference. So, coming in on the head here, you can see that, oh, let's see if this will help. Yeah, okay. Having a hard time focusing here. Alright, let's see if I can just do it as is. you can see the eyes here. This is more of a pinkish color. The pinkish orangish, I'm not sure. And his eyes are definitely red. The helmet is definitely like a darkish seeish bluish greenish color. It's the darkest shade on the entire toy, just like this is the darkest shade of green on this one. Belt's still the same. And the jaw color and the body and gloves is definitely the same color. Let's see if I can get this in. Most definitely. I might just take a picture later of the two and put it in the video so you can definitely see the comparisons better. But yes, very nice. The jaw seems to be shaped the same, but I don't know if it's harder to tell with the less shiny paint on one as it is on the shinier paint on the other, or if they really did shape it a bit different for the newer version. But whatever the case is, they both look very nice. So I'll just stand in here. Get him into his iconic pose. There. And I'll do the same with the other version. And there. Oh. There. The older version is definitely my favorite, but the newer version definitely holds a special place in my heart too. So I really like these. I like them both very much. And now for the second one, Kamen Rider 2. He definitely has some differences between the other two. Yes, as you can see, they added some color variations and some new details to the second one. Now, a brief history on this guy. He was the second one to be made into Kamen Rider by the evil organization Shocker. And before he was brainwashed, the first Kamen Rider there saved him. And he left him to protect Japan as he left for Europe to stop Shocker's ambitions in Europe. And for about 30, 40 something or another episodes, it's along those lines. He was the main character for the show until he returned. So, let's take a look. Yeah, he has a dark shade of green, definitely more along the lines of black than his. Let's see if I can get it to focus. Too close. Just some focus. No focusing? Nope. Alright, I'll just hold him back a bit better. It has the silver mouth plate. And they added this strip of silver down the side. On both sides. Yeah, he has the unpainted detail on the back. It's a lighter shade of green on him than it is on him. Unlike number 1, the mouth plate is silver. It's not the same color as the armor and gloves. The belt has a kind of reddish, copperish, rustish color to it all around, and you can notice the silver in the middle a lot better on this colored version, and the turbine in the middle is still red. The eyes are red. I can't tell if it's a different red on him than in him, but it's definitely red. Please focus. Focus. Okay, so the chest plate might be a little differently shaped, I don't know. And the black is just like with him, it's definitely black, not a different, like a very dark shade of green. He still has all the clothing details like the last two. The mouth plate might be shaped differently, and the red scarf, which I forgot to mention on him, still has that. So, yeah. Now let's see if I can bring him up for comparisons. These two look mighty fine together. I know on the show it's fun to see them team up to fight the monster of the week. Let's see if we can. The chest plate seems to be shaped the same. The mouth plate seems to be shaped the same. The eyes might be a little oriented on the helmet just ever so slightly, but I cannot tell. And I forgot to mention, he still has the green crystal in the middle, but he has a silver strip going down the middle. On the show it goes all the way to the back, but yeah, they don't do too many paint details on the back with these candy toys. But other than that, yeah, if you can tell, the shade of green where he has it is definitely a different shade. Probably not doing a good job illustrating it, but they're still good looking toys. I'll get him back into his pose. And so there you have it. And he also has a pose too that he's known by. I'll just get him here. There. The articulation on these two are exactly the same as the articulation on the original one. So, nothing different, nothing new there, but just nice to have a variant on the classic look. Oh, I forgot to mention, he also comes with extra hands. Not as much as him, but he has them. There we go. And now, if you're getting tired of the same old, we can get into Riderman. And as you can tell, he's definitely different from the others that came up to this point. And here he is, Riderman. He is the first and the only Kamen Rider to have the open mouth part of his helmet here. Like, he has nothing covering the helmet. You can actually see a bit of his human face under the helmet. Future Kamen Riders up to this day would not replicate that. Let's see if I can get to focus so you can see the details better. Ah, there. Yeah, you can see they detailed the mouth very well. He has a red crystal right in front of the nose. There's a green details going up and some red and silver details like that act as an arrow. He has the same rider eyes as the riders that have come before. He has the scarf, which is a little too high. There we go. His is a yellow scarf. You've had red, white, and now yellow. And black if you want to count X, but actually he is the rider who comes directly before X, just like this is the one that comes before V3, so we have a perfect line from 1 to 5 now. And yes, his chest armor is red, much like V3's, if I'm remembering right. We actually have a different look to the belt, where the other three have had turbines, V3 having 2 on one belt. He has no turbine, just an arrow pointing this way, and you can see these dots here, which would actually light up on the show. He doesn't bring out his belt for transforming. He transforms by putting his helmet on, and the rest of the costume just shows up. The bodysuit's definitely black, no doubts there. He has this arrow going up, a silver arrow with a green arrow inside of that, and a smaller red arrow inside of that. There's a red belt all around. He has a pouch on his. Just going back here, no details on the back except it looks like a back zipper, which is a pretty nice detail now that I think about it. Some more folds in the clothing and that hole for those toy stands if you want to get them in some good poses. Silver gloves and silver boots. Yeah, I really like Riderman. The fact that he's so different from Kamen Riders who have come before and after him, and that he's called Riderman, just makes him one of my favorites. I'm probably in a minority that like him over a lot of other riders. But yeah, I just very much like him. And the uniqueness doesn't end there because he has weapon hands. Well, he has two regular hands, but his right hand can be switched out with weapon hands, which brings me to something else. In the last video, I mentioned that there were secret variants, and in the last video, I do not believe they had secret variants in that first wave. But in the second wave, we got our first secret variant, and it's this guy. Though in the secret variant, the main body is still the same, in the variant we get extra weapon hands, which is very nice. We'll take a look at what he had in the first one. He had these kind of open-ish hands, more for posing. I'll switch out both his hands here, because he usually poses with one of these open hands when he poses with his weapon hands. So, in the non-secret version, he only comes with one, the hook arm. Or the rope arm, I believe this one is. So here we have the hook arm. This would act as a grappling hook, or the rope arm, I should say. It would act as a grappling hook. You would shoot the rope and swing, all Spider-Man or Batman style. So it's pretty nice. I'm in a pose like this. I'll go through each arm. So next we have the claw hand, I believe. This would be like a melee weapon where you would slash at his enemies with this. So this was a very nice hand too. Sometimes he would pose like this, having his weapon bared. And one thing to note, on the extra stand in the secret variant, 3 of the holes are covered because when you look at this, there's no way all the weapon hands could fit side by side, so they were oriented in a way to where they could fit. So that's some. Except for the drill arm, which we'll pose with him next, which can fit on this one. But yes. So the drill arm is this one. As you can see, it's a drill. He drills into objects, walls, and his enemies with this arm. And one weapon that didn't appear in the show he appeared in, but would later appear in specials, comics, and movies, is the gun arm, which is a machine gun, so you could just pretend the drill arm is also the machine gun arm and have him shoot away at his enemies. So the drill arm's good to pretend, or the machine gun arm, even though he doesn't actually have that one. Alright. Now for the next variant he has is, I believe this is the hook arm, where this one doesn't shoot a rope like the rope arm does, but it's another melee weapon where he just hacks and slash at his enemies with the hook arm and lets him grab his enemies better for more grappling attacks, instead of the just slashing like with the blade arm or the claw arm. And finally, another melee weapon, we have the mace arm, or the hammer arm, whichever it is. And this is just a beatdown weapon, a bludgeoning weapon, just for hitting things. No fancy tricks, no tripping or slashing, just whacking. Just whack, 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 whack with this. That's all this is, and no drilling either, just pummeling. Yeah. So that's the secret variants. Yep, there we go. So I'll just put him in. There. And the backstory of this guy, he didn't have his own series. Just like him, he has shared with the first one. He shared his with Kamen Rider V3. He used to be a scientist who loyally served the Destron evil organization that Kamen Rider V3 in, but a jealous general was jealous at the favor he had with their leader, and so had placed in false evidence that accused him of being a traitor, which cost him his arm, which was replaced by a cybernetic one. As far as I know, he didn't get much, if any, cybernetic enhancements beyond what was needed to save his life, and most of his augmentation is the robotic arm and whatever the suit provides. But otherwise, he's, bodily speaking, he's the most human out of all the riders, even though he's just as much a rider mentally as all the others. And he eventually joined V3 and had a change of heart about Destron and became just as dedicated to the cause of justice as V3 and every other rider was. And during his short time on the show, he actually was presented as kind of an anti-hero character who reluctantly worked with V3 until the end, where he made the complete transformation from villain to anti-hero to real hero. But his time on the show, although short-lived, was very memorable, and he is officially the 4th Kamen Rider, and has always appeared with every other rider since in future seasons and specials that past riders would come in. So I'll just put him on the stand here and pose him. And there. That's all the heroes and Kamen Riders for this wave. Now we will get on to the villains, and the first one is a monster, not a general character, our main bad guy, our minion like what we're going to review after, but a monster, as in monster of the day, and this one is special among them, because this one was a movie monster. He was the main antagonist of the original Kamen Riders in a movie. The original two had to team up to stop him and a plan to steal a secret weapon. And his name is Sanjo. However you pronounce it in Japanese. I know it translates to something in English, but for now we're just calling him Sanjo. Or Zanjo. Zanjo. But yeah, we'll stick with that for this video. He is clearly recognized as a very powerful monster. So, we shall bring him in. Bam! There! He's definitely different from the toys we've gotten, where they've had a mostly humanoid body and the setup was difficult, but him, there was a lot going on with this design that you don't get with the heroes and the minions, and even Apollo Geist that we reviewed in the last one. A monster works for the evil organization Shocker. He has these little hands, and he only has one extra hand and his stand, and it's here, and the only difference is that the fingers are closed in and the fingers are spread out. That's the only real difference. But I'm glad they at least included that, even though it wasn't really necessary because the change wasn't all that different. I'm sure if I paid more attention to the movie he's in, then I'd see why it was included. But whether you think it was needed or not, it's nice that they did that. His articulation is kind of hindered because of his shoulder pads, so he can't do much. This is just fine. The hands can turn. He has the waist movement. It's hindered in the back because of this back piece. And he doesn't really have any head articulation because of how it is. Because this entire top piece is one piece and you had to clip it on to assemble his head. So, just a little wiggle waggle, but no posability with his head whatsoever. His leg articulation is just fine. The legs are mostly just normal for the most part. He has this nice textured detail on here. Detailed like a fish, I think. All this bump sporty thing goes back down here as these fins on the side of his head. Has these two nostrils, these two red eyes, and this T-shaped mouth where he would shoot fire from the top part of the middle here. Has the layered shoulder pads, which has that bumpy detail when you go in the back. He has these back fins here. He has more of the layered scales. Yeah, that's it. Scales going down, and this striped detail on the middle. The top stripe here is like a darker one on the inside but a lighter one on the out, and it gets more dark as it goes. Oh, and something that the old 70s and 80s shows had in common was that the monsters would often wear a belt, like this wrestler style belt that had the symbol of the organization there with. So almost every monster in the original season had this belt up to a certain point. And it's pretty nice. I wouldn't mind owning a belt like this. It's just black, has some studded details along, and it goes to the back where you see the hole for posing is back there. It's pretty nice. And it goes down here, and you see more of those layered scales going down, and he just has a boot. Most monsters didn't have a monster boot, just ended up as a boot. And in the original series, at least, all the... Oh, hand came off. Sometimes these smaller hands come off easy. As I was saying, most, if not all, of the monsters in the old shows all used to be regular people who were kidnapped and modified and brainwashed and being made totally subservient to Shocker. So down to the minions up to the main monsters. The generals might have been an exception, but as far as the monsters and minions concerned, they were just brainwashed, kidnapped people. So, you can definitely see it not in this guy, but in other monster masks, you would actually see a human eye under. Maybe a little painted to match the mask, but although back then it was probably just chalked up as to being costume budget designs of old shows from the past, to me it just stood out to me as being a bit of humanity left over from the modification. And going down, when you see the boot there, that's also a sign of their former humanity, is that they just had boots instead of monster feet, though on occasion it was a complete change down to their feet. And on the back, you actually see from the front going up to the back, it's kind of that skirtish detail like you would see in these guys, which I forgot to show off. I'll do that real quick. Yep, that nice bit of detail, which I liked, yes. Yeah, which is very nice. The attention to detail on this is nice, because in the old show/movie, you can tell it's a costume. You can see in the back where there was just a pair of pants with some foam, cardboard, whatever, just glued on and spray painted. Yeah, you can definitely see that these are pants. They didn't just keep the detail and put it all that they couldn't emulate in the show but could in the toy. But they just kept that little detail. They didn't fix it at all for the toy. They just kept it. Some people might complain about that, but for me, I liked that they kept that detail. Just makes it feel more authentic to me. I'll just put him on his stand here. Yes, that was Zanjo. Yeah, and I really liked him. And now finally we will get to the Shocker Combat Man. And for the longest time I thought these guys were Spanish wrestlers, or luchadors as they were called. Because in the episode this mask design was introduced in, it was with a monster who came from Mexico. And all of them had this mask design. So I just thought, whoa, he was the Mexican, so his minions reflect that by having these wrestler designs. But the design persisted beyond that. And it was like, wow. So I just called them Shocker Luchadors for a long time. And it wasn't until later that I realized that their official name were Shocker Combat Men. And although whether they intended for them to always look like Spanish wrestlers or not, as far as I know, I'll never know. I really enjoy that they look like Spanish wrestlers with those masks on, even though the rest of their outfits don't reflect it. Aside from the belt, of course, which you will see right now. You can clearly see the Shocker Combat Men. They have the same backstory as the monsters, just kidnapped people, modified and brainwashed. Though after their series and specials and movies, they became a little more comical, which is pretty hilarious, but still, I've just got enough of a chuckle out of their costumes by themselves. These were the minions in the original show, and they only started getting this particular look about 14 episodes in, and it would be another 20 before they got the whole iconic design that they still use to this day when they bring them back in specials. They have the same belt as the monsters do, which further sold why I thought they were wrestlers. And they have this bone design that goes up and down their suits. Doesn't persist in the back. It's just one black bodysuit aside from the details. They have the Shocker symbol on the top of the mask. And just black gloves, black boots, black suit. It's very simple. Just Shocker Man. He has this like grrr pose he's in. And they come with this extra weapon, a sword, because they have a sword holding hand. So which is nice, because they all had either sticks or knives or swords, and they would all have that. Just put him here, and I'll show that off in my other copy. Because when it comes to minions and troops, I tend to troop build with these. So when I got this, which was the first one where I got it in the box, where it's just, you open it and place it on the counter, which I'll illustrate more in a future video. I just kept all of these. I would give the extras to my brothers and sisters that wanted them. But the minions I would all keep, even though I wouldn't just keep one and give the rest to my brothers and sisters. I keep all the minions and foot soldiers and grunts. I keep all of them. I don't often go out of my way till I get more than what comes in the box, but this is about as extreme troop building as I get in regards to this. And I'm going a bit off topic. Meant to show off that he has the sword. I just simply put the sword, comes out, goes in, just simple like that. Have this one hand, he's like, "Grr, I'm gonna get you," kind of thing. Pretty nice. And I'll get my other one here, which has been loaded with these straight hands, and get them in their iconic pose, which is Kiki or Heil Hitler, because fun fact, the original evil organization in the original show they were the heroes in, the Shocker organization was actually a neo-Nazi organization, although you didn't often see that. In one episode, they had an old Nazi general help them find an old Nazi treasure. But that was their backstory. They were remnants of the Nazi movement from World War II who banded together and formed the secret organization Shocker to overthrow the world. So I always found it interesting that the original bad guys were just a group of glorified neo-Nazis. Just show, and as of the original show's airing, it had been about 25 years, give or take, since World War II had ended. So it just came to show how the Japanese viewed Nazism, despite their allegiance to them during that time. They really didn't care for it after the war, even if assuming they cared before or after. And to show the minions would just salute like this. So just keep them in that little pose, and when they talk to their generals, they'd be like, "Kicker!" They never said hi or anything. These minions would always speak in a kicker voice. Like, kicker, kicker, kicker! And on occasion they would speak, but that's mostly how they communicated. And now I'll illustrate his weapon holding hand with... got it. There we go, and put the sword. Because one thing they liked to do on his show was that he would fight the minions. As he was fighting them, he would grab them and disarm them and start using their own weapons against them. Unlike modern shows where the heroes have their own weapons, the original just takes the weapons from the enemy. He doesn't keep it, he tends to just throw it away after that, but that's what he did for weapons. He would just take it from the minions. I'll just keep them with that arm. And yeah, that's that. So, this is Wave 2 Kamen Rider Versus line. And I'm pretty happy with this. A lot of my favorites came in this wave. And I'm looking forward to reviewing Wave 3 later on. And I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I'll be doing another one sometime later. And I hope to see you all in the next video. Later!